We are back with another edition of the Tennis Worthy Podcast, brought to you by the International Tennis Hall of Fame. I'm Brett Haber, and I'm excited to welcome you to the podcast that brings you conversations with Hall of Famers and legends that go beyond the game. Each year, as you know, the International Tennis Hall of Fame celebrates the sport's greatest players and contributors with tennis's ultimate honor, enshrinement into the Hall of Fame. This exclusive recognition represents the sum of a person's career as being truly at the top of the game, the best of the best. As we are dedicated to preserving tennis's history and celebrating those incredible champions, we frequently ponder the question, what makes a Hall of Famer? What is that unique something that led to their historic success? Was it innate, or did they need to cultivate a winning mindset over time? Answering these questions and more is what the Tennis Worthy Podcast aims to do. Chris Bowers is an esteemed tennis journalist of more than 3 decades and a biographer of Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic. He'll be here chatting with our legendary guests on Tennis Worthy. Today, Chris sits down with Hall of Famer Ivan Lendl.
I don't go anywhere saying, I'm going to see what I learn. I just go and see what I see, and eventually it will help me somewhere down the road. Obviously, 8 slams are huge. There are 2 other achievements which many people don't talk about. If you look at my early round results at Wimbledon, you will be saying, how did he play 5 sets with this guy? How did he play 4 sets with this guy? My question would be, how the heck did I beat those guys? I don't like doing things halfway. I like to do things properly, and if I can't do it, I prefer not to do them. Somebody enjoys tennis, somebody enjoys ice hockey, somebody enjoys art. I'm sure there are families who talk about art over dinner. Well, we talked about tennis.
Lendl was a force on tour in the 1980s, racking up 8 major singles championships and 100 combined tour titles. Growing up in a tennis family in Czechoslovakia, Ivan absorbed the game and its details, which, over time, led to a remarkable consistency. Ivan talks about being a ball kid at first and how much he'd learn in just that 1 week of watching the top players in person, plus his greatest achievements, which might surprise you, and how golf helps him clear his mind. I'll leave you now with Chris Bowers and Hall of Famer Ivan Lendl. Chris, take it away.
Ivan Lendl, what do you think it is that makes you a Hall of Famer?
I guess getting into the Hall of Fame is kind of reward for your career, where you have done well and have done well enough to get in.
But when you were a kid learning tennis, you must have been in a squad with kids who could hit the same forehands and backhands as you. What made you better than them?
I never thought about it. You're a kid, you just go out there and have fun and play and enjoy it.
Your background was very strongly in tennis. Both your parents played. Was tennis almost like just part of the family?
Oh, certainly. Both of my parents played. We went to the club every day, and everybody did what they needed to do. I went and played tennis with the kids. My mother practiced. My father wasn't already playing when I remember much, but he would hit with me maybe on Saturday, Sunday, and then he had meetings there because he was on the board of the club, and so it was good times.
Was it fun? Was it the kind of thing that some kids, they go off and they build sandcastles or whatever, and the thing that you did with your friends was playing tennis?
Yeah, I don't see building sandcastles as fun.
Some do.
Some do, yeah. Everybody has their things. Somebody enjoys tennis, somebody enjoys ice hockey, somebody enjoys art. And I'm sure there are families who talk about art over dinner. Well, we talked about tennis.
But the point was, it was fun as a kid. It wasn't, even though you obviously had a very strong work ethic, that came as part of it because the fun drove it, or which
Well, when you're having fun, it's not work, right?
Okay, that's the way you saw it. Yeah. At what stage did you first get the sense that you were, a bit special, going to be good?
I never thought that. You play, you start playing tournaments and matches, and I started winning some, and okay, so you still have, you're in 12s, and then you're 14s, and then you go straight to 18s at that time. That's a difficult jump, and you don't win as much in 18s as you did in 14s, obviously, first year or two. And I never thought that it's something special. You just see people around you who work hard and have fun and who are also winning, and you do the same thing.
But you did very well as a junior, culminating in winning French Wimbledon Junior Slam titles, and you were the first ever World Junior Champion. That must have created a sense of, I can go pretty much anywhere.
Not consciously, probably subconsciously. Again, I was very well aware of the fact that it's difficult to go from juniors to men's, and that you have a long way to go. And I never really thought about it in any other way. You just try to go step by step while you're enjoying it.
Did you have any setbacks or any serious obstacles that you had to overcome?
Plenty. I mean, everybody does.
How did you get over yours?
Well, you just keep doing what you're doing, believe in what you're doing, believe in how you're training and practicing, and if you think you need to adjust something, you think about it, and hopefully you choose the right path.
Did that belief come from within you, or did you need one or two mentors who really encouraged you to trust your ability?
I think the belief comes within you. You have people help you, whether they know it or don't know it. I remember one year I lost in qualifying. I never played an ATP Tour event and lost in qualifying final round. And I was 18 years old. And instead of feeling sorry for myself next day, the guy said, "Hey, 10 o'clock we're practicing, come and join us." So to me, at that time I didn't know, but to me that's a big thing, because you just go and keep doing what you're enjoying instead of pouting.
You grew up in Ostrava, that time part of Czechoslovakia, which was part of the state-controlled economies of Eastern Europe. Was the prospect of being an international tennis player an ambition as a passport to get out of Czechoslovakia?
Again, I think subconsciously. Subconsciously, you know that when you're young, you obviously don't know what you know or what you know later. When you look back at things, yes, clearly. But at that time, again, just if I'm winning in Czechoslovakia, I want to see how I do against kids from Germany or France, doesn't matter.
Who were your idols at the time? Did you have any idols?
Well, of course, the best tennis player we had was Jan Kodeš. So everybody looked up to him. I used to ball boy for him. And then I recall watching Wimbledon, whether it was 68 or 69, I'm not sure. And one of the matches, because we had only semifinals and finals on television, was Tony Roach against Rod Laver. And, you could ask, has it ever crossed your mind that Tony Roach will be your coach? Of course not, right?
Was tennis thought of as a Western sport, or was it very much part of the Czechoslovak sporting culture?
It was always a big sport in Czechoslovakia because it had a very rich history. You can go to Koželuch and Drobny and those players, and Sukova in 62 in finals of Wimbledon and so on. So it was always bringing kids to the sport because they were popular players having success. And when you see success, you want to follow success. You can look at certain things in other sports, and as soon as there is a successful team, let's say in football, and makes Champions Leagues, others think, well, we can do that too. And so history and success in the history of the game is extremely important because it just shows you, we call it a pathway at the USTA. It's a pathway. If somebody in your family has done well on any level in sports, well, you think you can do it too because you have seen it.
And so when you were ball boying for Jan Kodeš, were you just concentrating on the balls, or were you watching little things from him that you would pick up?
You don't watch for them, but you see them. And I know that for a week I would not be able to play because they took all the courts for the championships and so on and so on. Yet, the following Monday I was a better player than previous Monday just from watching.
Because of what you picked up?
Yeah, because what you learn strokes, you learn strategy. you learn psyche, you learn it all.
Davis Cup, that was obviously a very big thing for you in terms of moving you forward. And in fact, you were a Davis Cup champion long before you were a Grand Slam champion. Tell me about getting into the Davis Cup team, what you learnt from being the youngest and newest player on a very successful team.
Well, we were not that successful when I joined the team. We got beat 5-0 at Eastbourne by Buster Mottram and David Lloyd. But again, to me, I don't go anywhere saying, oh, I'm going to see what I learn. I just go and see what I see, and eventually it will help me somewhere down the road. I could equate it to a golf lesson. I take golf lesson every week once. And sometimes I'm driving home and saying, what the heck was that today? And 18 months later, I am doing something, and something happens. Oh, that's what he meant that time. And it's like that learning in tennis. You do things and you don't know why somebody did something. And then you're in similar situation and you realize why they did it and why did they go there and not there, or hit shots there or somewhere else. And it's more subconscious learning by paying attention. Yeah,
I was going to say, the way you talk about it is very valid for the second half of your life when you've processed a lot. But as a...
No, it's valid from the beginning.
Right, okay.
You just don't know it.
Ah, okay. So you weren't conscious of that, but you knew what you were picking up by looking back on it now.
Yeah, I was learning subconsciously. I can analyze it later.
So what did you get out of Czechoslovakia winning the Davis Cup in 1980? Because that was a tremendous achievement.
Well, there I knew right away when we won in Argentina, because not many people know this, but I have never beaten Vilas, never won a set from Vilas, and I have never beaten my good friend Jose Luis Clerc. And beating them on their court in Argentina just showed me that no matter who the favorite is, anything can happen.
So you got a sense of belief from those two wins?
I don't know if sense of belief, but sense of, and we could say later, that's why we play sports, right? Because we don't know what the result will be. And no matter who the heavy favorite or what team the heavy favorite is, anything can happen. And that's what happened in Argentina. If we played there 25 times, maybe we would have won only once. And it was a very curious match with Vilas, actually, because that was before tiebreakers in Davis Cup. And I beat him 7-5, 8-6, 9-7. And he had set points in each set. And, those are curious things which don't happen very often.
There was then a period of about 4 years when you were very much a member of the world's elite, but you couldn't win a major. What was lacking there?
Experience. It's simple as that. People make a big deal out of it. I never looked at it that way. I felt I'm still improving. I felt that every time I lost a match, it showed me where my weaknesses are, and I can learn from that and improve them. And it also, losing to Borg at the French. Borg was pretty heavy favorite. Losing twice to Connors at the US Open. Well, unless you're playing extremely well, losing to Connors at the US Open can happen. And, I lost to Mats in Australia, but my strategy wasn't right for the whole tournament, the way that grass played compared to the English grass. I didn't have much experience on the Australian grass, and then when I realized that during the match it was too late. So, and then you go and win somewhere which are surprises. Both times I beat John, I kind of put my Grand Slams in 4 different categories. One is the 2 surprises or upsets of John at the French in '84, where he beat me twice going into the French Open. He beat me at Forest Hills and Düsseldorf, both on clay. And he beat me twice in '85 on hard courts at, I believe, Stratton Mountain in Montreal, going into the US Open. And he was the favorite in both of them, and both matches he got ahead, and I was able to turn it around. So that's one. Then total opposite was in '86 when I played Pernfors and Machir in the French and US Open finals, where I was the favorite, and that's totally different pressure. And I was able to handle that. We can go back to the Davis Cup in 1980, where Argentina, we were underdogs. Against Italy in Prague, we were heavy favorites. And those are two very different ways the things go and how you feel about it. And then 87, I beat Mats in Paris and Mats at the US Open, where I'm not sure if he played for number one that time or it was close, but Mats was one of the toughest opponents I ever played against. And then the Australian Open, after it went from Kooyong to Flinders Park, Melbourne Park now, on different surface, which suited me more, even though I was not a big fan of rebound ace because the bounces were still not as good as hardcourt. And so those are the four, and beat Mechir, and then the match with Stefan where he couldn't finish, unfortunately. But those are four totally different blocks in the 8 Grand Slams if you look at it. Winning when you expected to win goes to childhood or to junior days, where we had tournaments together, 12 and 14s were together. And if you were good enough in 12s, you could play the 14s as well. So I did play usually 2 to 3 matches a day for 3-4 days. And I was expected to win the 12s, but not expected to win the 14s when I was 12. But I had to learn how to fight against guys who were bigger, stronger, better than me. And sometimes I would spring the upset and beat a couple good players, but I won all my 12s. And that's where I learned how different it is when you're the underdog and when you're the player who is expected to win. And that was good education.
Tennis Worthy is not just a podcast. It's also a video series dedicated to the triumphs and challenges Hall of Famers and legends have overcome. From Althea Gibson breaking the color barrier, to Billie Jean King's resiliency, and Martina Navratilova's sacrifice of defecting from her homeland for a better future. Tennis Worthy tells the best stories of the game, from the best players in the game, through the defining values of tennis. To watch, visit tennisfame.com/tennisworthy. Ever wonder how tennis balls were packaged in the early 1900s? Or what was fashionable on the court in 1881? How about the rackets used by Jimmy Connors or Billie Jean King? All of that and more can be found in the International Tennis Hall of Fame's digital exhibits. The award-winning digital exhibits take you through tennis's most interesting history, to the boundaries broken by black players to pave the way for today's stars. To view the digital exhibits, visit tennisfame.com/digital exhibits. Let's send you back now to Chris Bowers for more of his conversation with Hall of Famer Yvonne Lendl.
One of the big decisions you took in that period was to hire Tony Roach as your coach. Did he make a big difference, or was it just a question of being comfortable with somebody the night before matches?
I won Roland Garros in 84. Fibak was my coach. At the end of the year, we decided that we're going to go separate ways. And then Tony came on board. I was kind of fortunate because that was before cell phones. And I was looking for a coach, and my agents had 3 names for me. One was in Europe, and it was 5, 6 in the evening. Didn't reach that person. One was in California, called him. Didn't reach that person either, because that's 3 o'clock there. They're doing something. And so I called Australia, and Tony picked up. And we spoke for quite a while and exchanged a lot of ideas and decided we will give it a try. I don't know what would have happened if I reached somebody else. Probably would still want to talk to others, because Tony obviously was sentimental, because I watched him at Wimbledon, 68 or 69. And so I definitely wanted to speak to him. I also watched him in Davis Cup in Prague when he was leading 2-0 and lost that match to Jiří Hřebec. And so I definitely wanted to talk to him no matter what. We have met once before. We played the doubles exhibition tournament in Melbourne, 8 teams. I played with Steve Denton, and they put Tony and Nuke in there. They were older, so it wasn't pretty much fair, but we never really got to know each other until he started coaching me, and he made a huge difference. He brought a lot of experience. He has been on all 4 courts on Sunday finals. You can't pay enough money for that.
And so did you feel differently going into finals with Roche in your corner because of something he would say to you in the run-up to that final?
No, it's not. Again, it's not anything conscious. It's a lot of little things he was doing. He would be doing during training, and he would just say in the car, and he would understand how difficult it is to get a pasta meal down at 10 o'clock when you have 2 o'clock finals, and he would sit with me while I'm doing it, and so on and so on. So just the understanding that the person who is next to me has been through it and understands what it is tremendous.
What do you think of as your greatest achievement of the 8 slams you won, or maybe the Davis Cup?
I have 2 others, which obviously 8 slams are huge. There are 2 other achievements which not many, well, maybe even 3, which many people don't talk about. My record at Wimbledon. Being in the semis 7 times and 2 finals out of that, even though I never won, it was extremely difficult for me. We had 2 weeks between French and Roland and Wimbledon. Courts were not covered, so we lost 3-4 days of rain. Most of the time, and if you look at my early round results at Wimbledon, you will be saying, how did he play 5 sets with this guy? How did he play 4 sets with this guy? My question would be, how the heck did I beat those guys? Because many times, Sunday before Wimbledon, Rochi was still beating me. And I was 15 years younger than him.
Because of grass court technique?
Because of the style difference I had to adjust. So my Wimbledon record would be one of them. The other one would be Tour Championships. I believe I qualified 13 times, and the first 9 times I ended up playing the finals. At Grand Slams, you can win beating one player in top 10 or maybe even no players in top 10 if you get extremely good draw and players lose and so on and so on. In the Tour Championship, you're playing top 8 guys every night. And to be 9 times in the final, to me, it shows a lot of consistency. And the third one is kind of a funny one. But if you think about it, it's crazy. I was born in 1960. I have never lost to anybody born 1960 or younger from Czechoslovakia, starting from day one, until I lost to Matt Shear in 1987. So I was 27 years old at Key Biscayne.
Wow.
That's mind-boggling if you think about that, but it's not obviously not on the world scale. But
it gives extra significance to Maciej's victory against you at Key Biscayne.
Yes.
Yeah.
But people don't know this, but I think it's a funny kind of tidbit.
Do you still have nightmares about that net cord which Becker beat you at the 37th stroke of the rally on match point?
No, things happen, and it's kind of funny. I think the lead courts, I think the bad calls, I think the bad draws, let's say, Saturday of the US Open, when it used to be Super Saturday, and you would have somebody played at 11 and somebody played third from 11, and you always thought, okay, the guy who plays first has a huge advantage. If you look at it and study it, it will be about even who wins the finals. It will be about even also if somebody had 3 sets and the other guy had 5 sets. Same thing with lead courts. Same thing with matches I won from 2 sets to love down and I lost from 2 sets to love up. It just matters when it happens, and the timing is everything.
So just go back to grass for a second. You made massive efforts to play what was then called grass court tennis. You even had a special racket made for you so that you could serve and volley. And then a couple of years later, you must have watched Agassi winning from the baseline. Was that a moment where you thought, heavens, why didn't I stick to my own game?
I knew I couldn't because of my movement. I was a heavy mover, man-made mover, I would say. Not that I moved badly, but on grass, my turnarounds were just horrific. And so staying back wasn't an option. One-handed backhand against two-handed backhand, staying back is also very difficult. I could deal with the funky bounces at those days with the forehand, but with the backhand I couldn't. So that was not a good option. I never thought about it and rejected it very quickly.
You've talked very openly about how the luck can spread itself evenly over the course of a match or a season. on grass, you've got to accept that there will be bad bounces all the time, even now with the much better courts.
Well, you could minimize them on the bad courts by coming in.
Fine, and that was part of your philosophy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even throughout your peak years, you were a keen golfer, and at the end of your tennis career, you tried making it on the golf circuit. You played left-handed.
Yeah.
How much was golf important? How much did you have to suppress it? Was it useful as a escape?
I never really played much while I played tennis. And I was trained all my life to compete. And once I stopped tennis, golf came very handy in competition. I enjoy the competition in golf till today. We have a couple club championships coming up, and I'm looking forward to it already. Because once you train for that, it's hard to walk away from it. So golf is very useful to clear your mind. Even now, when, let's say, I'm at Wimbledon with Andy, I do go up to the club in the evenings, and I don't necessarily go and play. I will putt, I will chip, spend a couple hours with little music in my ear, and just clear my head, because otherwise it can get scrambled very quickly with all the pressures around. And it's nice to have little time to yourself, do what you enjoy doing, and refresh.
So how was it coaching Andy Murray as a tennis coach, and at the same time helping your daughters, especially one who played very, very high level of golf, as a dad?
Well, 3 of them played high level, and I don't believe I did that at the same time. The only reason I agreed, or let me rephrase that, if they still needed me, I would not have worked with Andy. They were already in college and family was gone, so I could travel and I could spend time with Andy, because, as you probably can guess or know, I don't like doing things halfway. I like to do things properly, and if I can't do it, I prefer not to do them. And so once the kids were out of home and going to college, my job was done.
If you were giving advice to youngsters today, let's say mainly in tennis, but could be in other sports or in other disciplines, what's the most important thing you've learned that you'd pass on to youngsters?
Well, I would say to youngsters, have fun, because when you're having fun, you do better. But I would also say to parents, make sure they have good instruction early. I have seen it working with juniors at USTA and the academies and all that. If you have, and I have seen it again retrospectively when I look at some of my friends I played with in childhood, the ones who had flaws in their strokes and in their technique were held back for a long time trying to fix it later. So if you can get good instruction early and good fundamentals, the road is becoming a highway and you can keep improving. If you have to stop and fix it, you get past.
Ivan Lendl, thank you very much for sharing your memories with us.
Thank you.
Ivan, thank you so much, and we couldn't agree more. Tennis is and should be fun for youngsters, and moms and dads, it's all about the fundamentals that pave the way to future success. If you like what you heard today, please share this show. The greatest compliment you can give us is to share it with those that you care about. The Tennis Worthy podcast was created by the International Tennis Hall of Fame in association with the Tennis Radio Network. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.